Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today, we will talk about the real estate bubble. Stick with us until the end. You don't want to miss this. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Dragos.
Toronto real estate market has been ranked as the fifth most at risk for a housing bubble, according to UBS 2024 Global Bubble Index. While Toronto's risk score has technically improved in some areas, the city market is still highly disconnected from income and rent fundamentals, with prices remaining unaffordable for most residents. The overall takeaway is that Toronto housing market remains highly vulnerable to a bubble despite some improvements. Policymakers have attempted to address national demand without fully capturing the unique risks that Toronto real estate market faces. And my first question to you is, do you think this is only for Toronto, or this applies in other parts of Canada as well?
Oh, I'd say it definitely applies in other parts of Canada. Vancouver automatically comes to mind. In fact, actually, I think Ottawa or Vancouver was on that list there as well. I don't know if it made the top 10. I think it was just slightly under, but yeah, between Toronto and Vancouver, I think those two cities are high risk. And I think they've been high risk for quite a while. It's kind of amazing actually that they haven't had more of a correction, than the last little bit is shown for those two monolithic cities. And if I may, I think part of the issue, or part of the thing with it's easing through that isn't necessarily that it's eased that much. So maybe some of the other parts of Canada have kind of started to grow a little bit more, closing that gap. Calgary, Edmonton, Ottawa, particularly, seeing some big gains there, which is not necessarily a good thing when it comes to affordability.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So only Miami, Tokyo, Zurich, and Los Angeles are running hotter, according to UBS rankings. It's something that I couldn't believe the first time I read the article. I knew Toronto and Vancouver are pretty hot, but to be number 5 in the world, it's pretty high. And yes, it is. And well, we talked about the standing of Vancouver is number 10. So it's number 10. So we got in Canada, in top 10 of the world, two cities that are at risk for a housing bubble.
Typically it's great to be in the top 10, but not on this one.
Exactly. Exactly. Top 10 as a affordability, quality of life would be good. And I just want you to maybe talk about what do you think are the reasons that Toronto and Vancouver are this high in the list. I know we neither you or I were not real estate brokers in Toronto or Vancouver, but I would like to share your opinion with us.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, and I don't know if I can give you a real and reasonable explanation on it, other than just the huge amount of investors that have been purchasing in those areas that have been driving things up. You got a lot of speculators out of the Toronto market. You got a lot of speculators out of the Vancouver market. You got a lot of people who are willing to throw 20% down on something that is not built yet. It's not even a hole in the ground yet.
Exactly.
But never with the intention of doing anything with it other than flipping it over just prior to taking possession of it for a much, much higher price. Free money, basically. And when we've been seeing tons of that throughout the Toronto market, tons of that throughout the Vancouver market. We're just starting to see that coming into some of these other markets here, like Calgary, Ottawa, Edmonton. Who knows when it goes down to the kind of the smaller major markets as well, like Winnipeg, Regina, Saskatoon, those kind of areas. But I think I question how much that has had to play into this, and not necessarily smartly either. Now, I don't know if all those guys are making money, but they're driving things down.
Yeah. So one thing that also caught me by surprise is that I always thought the highest risk of bubble is Singapore, but I don't know why. It's a very small land with a lot of high rises and a lot of population. You understand the point? Yeah,
and you know what? I think that makes things just that much more vulnerable to risk. When you've got such dense population into certain areas, Toronto, Vancouver, Singapore, when you get that sort of thing, the smallest of changes can make some massive impacts, and some of that, being weather as well. My sister just went through the hurricanes in Tampa. Just seeing what some of those things can do across areas, but particular ones that are very highly dense, and just how risky they are. It bears interest.
And also the mortgage risks are higher now. Commercial, of course, I believe we talked about the last podcast commercially, but residentially as well. And Toronto construction's bubble risk is underestimated due to national level data analysis. Okay, so because right now there's a lot of, that's my opinion, a lot of prices going up, rents going up everywhere, cost of living going up. We don't see Toronto as a big problem yet. But if you remember, we talked about the productivity issue, the falling of standards of living, the wages going down, and many others, inflation, printing money, we can go on and on. Then at one point, this can be tragic. At one point, God forbid, people can start losing their houses in those areas. And it's already happening. It's already happening.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't want to talk about it because it's not, I don't want to create it even more. But I hear stories now, starting now, this year. And I thought it will be 20. We talked about it again. 2025, 2026. We know the renewals, 80%. No, it already started, Chris.
Yeah.
Have you had the same experience?
Yeah. Well, and I've seen those same statistics. Just showing we haven't seen the slightest of increases in bank-owned foreclosures, all Court of King's Bench, all that sort of stuff that's been happening here in Calgary. I think Edmonton's been following very slightly the same. Toronto's definitely come up a fair bit. 25, 26, when a lot of these renewals start happening, that's going to put a crunch on a lot of people. And I think we're going to start seeing some stuff happening then. Or hopefully not, because the interest rates come down. But that's up for debate. We'll see what happens there, right?
Exactly. I want to show you something. Just to finish with this, see Singapore, it's number 15. I always thought it's number 1, but it's 15.
Yeah.
And remember, Miami, when the financial crisis hit, there were condos at $30,000-$40,000 US. Beautiful condos close to the beach. So see how quick it changes. 10 years from probably the bottom, now it's number 1.
Yeah. Well, and there's a couple of other cities in there that, you look at Dubai and just how fast they can put up a skyscraper that is unbelievably magnificent.
Yeah.
Like some of these cities are just insane how fast and how big and how luxurious they grow. What happens, down the road? I don't know. It was pretty dodgy here for a lot of the spots that were built in the 80s, right around the 2000s. There was a lot of problems that were happening from that fast building that went on. We shall see. We shall see, Dragos.
Exactly. We will live and we shall see. And one reason is that Canadian real estate prices have dropped 16% since peak. We talked about it last time extensively. I don't want to, go over it again. The point is that this was the peak. Okay. Hope everyone can see very well. This is the peak. March 2022. And those are the prices right now. August 2024. It's the same September.
Yeah. Well, Dragos, I think it's important to note on there that those largely are not necessarily drops. They're corrections on something that has kind of gone a little bit haywire for a bit, right? We have that natural ebb and flow to real estate, and we like to see this happening for sure. But yeah, those steep climbs, those are scary. Unless you just bought something that's real nice, and so suddenly you got it at a deal, and you're hoping these things keep climbing, so your equity keeps climbing. They're bound to have a bit of a natural cessation to it. It's bound to have a little bit of a correction on there. I think those drops are actually fairly good.
Yeah, it's like a consolidation.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as your stocks don't do the same.
Exactly. And see, we're talking about the prices dropping. Let me show you this. So in Ajax, a real estate broker, it's a Toronto neighborhood. So the prices before, she said, were floating around $1 million, and right now the prices are dropped at just over $900,000. So we're close to a 10% reduction. Okay, so we already start seeing price drops. Overall in Canada, we saw it a few minutes ago. And now in Toronto, a real estate broker from there with experience, 10%. That's a lot. That's a lot.
It is a lot. You know what else is a lot, though, is you think of the average household income in Toronto area is going to be under 100,000. I don't know these stats offhand for sure, 100%, but it's got to, if it's not under, it's got to be right at around 100,000, but I'm pretty sure it's lower. Typically, you would want to see your house price around, or like at least when you purchased it, around 4 times what your household income is.
Exactly.
5, maybe, not 10, 11 times. Like that's, how do you live?
I can't believe it. I cannot. I want to share something. When we came here from Romania in '96, I thought this country is a place where honey comes out of trees. It's literally the expression that I'm using.
Yeah.
My parents bought a bike. Obviously, I really love sports. I'm an athlete, and I was able to take my bike, go to the video store. It's called Video Splash, I remember, in Quebec, Saint-Eustache. And I was dropping my bike outside in a parking lot, going inside for like a half an hour, coming out, and the bike was still there. That was a big change from what I was used to keep my bike so tight when I was right beside me, in Romania. So that's my that was my image of Canada, and that image took a drop, to be honest, in my opinion, and that is because of policies. I don't want to get into that, but the policies have to change everywhere. everywhere. I'm not talking about only the government, the federal government, provincial, whatever, municipalities. I believe that people has to become a little bit stronger mentally and to understand that we need to unite and build a country, not pointing fingers and judging people, dividing people. What do you think that I understand? I understand economics play a role, but what other reasons do you believe that caused this situation, this bad situation that we are in right now?
Yeah. Well, and I think we've got a changing outlook on life. I think that.
Yeah. That's a great
honey
word.
and trees
Change
is
the
actually
outlook.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that we have ever seen as high a household debt as we do now. And it used to be that we were really comparable against the States, and I think we're just a little bit better than them as far as saving money and such.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
Well, we're in a different spot now, and their household debt versus ours is much lower, which puts us very precariously. And we have very much of a keep up with the Joneses, keep up with the neighbors mentality now. The land of milk and honey is now a bunch of saps coming out of those trees that you're speaking of. I don't know what Toronto's like so much specifically, but we're a land of cars. We are very spread out, so it kind of makes sense here in Calgary. But most two-person households have 3 cars.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I shouldn't say most. A lot do. There's definitely a chunk of that where we've just got this need to spend. And if I can say one other thing that might be driving some of that, other than kind of some handouts from the government, when COVID started to keep stimulating the economy, it is dang easy to sit here, lay in bed at 11 o'clock at night and put 4 orders in for stuff that you don't need through Amazon. Yeah. The ability and the convenience to do things like this is really, I buy more stuff than ever. Might as well get it. It'll be delivered to the door. It's just super easy. I wouldn't necessarily go out and buy that fine pen that just got ordered from Amazon last night because I got to go out and buy it. I got to go look at stuff, but dang. It's just true. Browsing online, make the purchase. There's a lot of stuff it really does drive a lot of growth and stimulation of the economy typically drives inflation as well.
Very well explained. Very well explained.
My laying in bed or ordering from Amazon.
The pen. What they said that beautiful pen? What did you said about the pen?
I just said I want that pen.
Yeah, exactly. That was good. So see, Canadian households debt to disposable income ratio lowered again, but from 170 to 176. It's not like a good thing. Okay. That means we spend $1.76 for every dollar we make. You understand?
That's a chunk. That's pretty scary.
It's true. It's including the mortgages and all that. You have to buy, so you have to have debt if you want to buy a home. I understand. And a big chunk of the calculus, it's that. But still, it's unsustainable to pay. It's $1.80 goes out of your pocket and only $1 comes in. How long?
Yeah.
We talk about sustainability in climate change. Let's talk about sustainability in the conditions of our lives now.
Yeah. Well, and I think the real estate in general is good debt because it appreciates. So it's not necessarily the worst to go into. But we were talking about the cars earlier too. If you got 3 cars, you're probably much more likely to be driving a Mercedes-Benz and a Audi, than a couple of Toyotas. Does a Toyota really make that big of a difference? I don't know. They're making even the cheapest cars are being made pretty darn nice these days.
Yeah.
But we got to have more. We got to have more. We got to have more. We got to have bigger. We got to have better. We got to have the brands. We got to state it's a Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
At LV comes at a price.
Yeah. Ask Jagmeet Singh. Because
he's not here right now. I can't ask.
No. Okay, of course.
Wait, is he with you?
Let me write to him. Yeah.
Those numbers are scary, Dragos. They really are.
Yeah. And we have to talk about it, because if we talk about it, we know. So we can do something. At one point, you have to wake up and do something, all of us. But I believe, like last time we talked about, it's better and better, in my opinion. Okay.
Yeah.
People don't listen to the lies and divisiveness anymore that much. It's been a while. It's, being called all sorts of names because you ask a question. So I believe we are waking up. And see here, the CREA lowers housing market forecasts for 2024 amid holding pattern for home sales. So people are keeping their homes. This was not a problem, but it was a way of doing of people when the prices were going higher and higher. I remember that through the pandemic, people were staying in their homes because they wasn't sure they could buy one. They sell theirs, but when do they can buy one? And also the interest rates are going higher and higher, and on their own home had a lower interest rate. Okay, so that was something that people were doing, keeping on their homes. But now this is 2 years later, and CREA lowered the housing market forecast, which means we will sell less homes than previously thought. Do you feel that in Calgary there's less sales, there's more sales?
Well, yeah, and I guess it all depends on kind of what you're looking against. The forecast for here, I'll come back to that in a minute, but the sales are definitely lower than they had been a year ago. We went through an extended period where it was a FOMO market.
Yeah.
I think there's two fears that most buyers demand have. It's fear of paying too much or fear of missing out. And for the longest time there, the fear of missing out was a stronger fear than the fear of paying too much. And people were just spending. They would go well over asking price in these multiple offer situations in order to get it. We're not seeing that so much anymore. I think the FOMO buyers have been replaced with the fear of paying too much, or just the not willing to jump in and risk everything in order to secure something. My situation isn't that bad right now. I'm willing to sit in it for a little bit. I'm going to wait till things, kind of quell out a little bit. They're talking about interest rates going down now. It's talking about maybe some corrections in housing. We've seen a slowdown. The unfortunate part, I think, is the typical buyer tends to associate a slowdown in sales and an increase in inventory with a reduction in pricing, which typically is right.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be happening in this market for whatever reason. We're not going crazy anymore. We're still doing this, not this, but we're still doing this. So be interesting to see where it goes. But I do think there is a bit of a reckoning that's been happening over. And I think part of that is going to happen as well with the next couple of years with people who bought. And I brought this up probably way too many times, but the pre-construction stuff, bought in that height of kind of craziness, and that will actually be coming to fruition a couple of years down the road after the craziness is gone, or not, or maybe it's rejuvenated. I don't know, but
yeah, that's something that I wanna talk to you about. Do you think that at one point, I hear a lot of I didn't see any articles for Alberta, but a lot of in Quebec in French, there's temporary workers that are being sent back to their homes, and there's like problems in manufacturing companies. factories. So my question, my way of thinking is, if those people go back, if there's less students, because there will be less students, if there's way less immigrants, and people are, there's a trend now for people moving out of Canada, and it's a big trend, and you'll see it more and more. You'll see it more and more. People will talk about it, but it's been a trend for about 6 months, a year now. Canadians are moving outside of Canada, and a lot of Canadians are moving to Eastern Europe.
Right.
Who would have thought, man? This is not a joke, okay? So we are today, October, and you'll see next year, this is going to be a big trend. Probably even fake news media, legacy media will talk about it. Moving to Eastern Europe, which was communist like 25 years ago. And so what do you think will happen if people will leave for their own reasons? So there will be less people to buy or rent, and the construction, especially here in Alberta, it's pretty good. So we construct here way more than other provinces, probably because of the free market mindset. And that's how I want you to think about it, and tell me, what do you think? Do you think that because of those people will go away, and we will have a drop in prices, rent prices in houses at one point, condos probably at the beginning?
Yeah. Well, and we saw it, 2008 with the condo market, particularly very strongly reducing in pricing. But I mean, whether it be students who are more likely to live with multiple other people in one spot, fair enough, or whether it be temporary workers, also a little bit more likely to live with more people in one spot, but less so. Remind me to come back to the 13-door housing rental product that was in the Calgary Herald today. It's for sale. I mean, we've seen properties that are basically just boarding houses with tiny little room after tiny little room. It's kind of the dark secret in the underbelly of all cities, including Calgary, that, provides housing to these people. But the long and the short of it is, the less people that we have here or coming here, the less demand we have for rentals, for purchasing. The more likely people are to not need a roommate in multiple situations, because that pricing house hasn't come down. And so I think we are going to see a bit of a shift coming around with some of this. We're building like crazy trying to house people. And then and then we're driving the people out as well. In certain sectors, like you were talking about manufacturing, housing. I was at an event with our real estate board yesterday, and the Alberta New Home Warranty rep was there, and she was talking about warranty work and how they're so far behind just because they can't find the people to work on it. Framers desperately needed here. Certain sectors desperately needed. So people who come and they maybe are leaving because they're not finding jobs. It's quite often just because they're not finding jobs within their spots, and we're needing more of those specific skilled people. And that's not
skilled, like welders, masons, framers, oil and gas workers, police officers,
construction workers, skilled tilers. Wow, that would be amazing. So much of that we see out of Eastern Europe. We bring in tilers from Eastern Europe that have degrees in tiling. We got an 18-year-old kid who flops down some mastic and throws a tile on the floor. We need more of that skilled stuff, right?
That's one thing that I realized when we first entered Alberta, from Quebec. There's not a lot of masons. If you go in Quebec, there's a lot of homes. There's even a law. The first level, you have to be like brick around the house. So the houses are like solid built with, stone and bricks. And when I came here, it's like, small homes built with plastic and,
Yeah.
you understand what I'm saying? Like the
and-
PVC and CanExcel wood, like imitations. Very, very, very low percentage of houses with bricks and stones.
Yeah. It is funny to see just how prevalent it is in the eastern side. We're just not used to that here whatsoever.
Yeah.
We're stucco. You go up to stucco. You move from vinyl siding to stucco here. There is like brick everywhere. Oh my God, brick. I remember my small town, it was actually in Western Ontario. But it's kind of more related to the prairies than the east, really. The few odd brick houses, that's a mansion, buddy.
Yeah.
Those people are rich.
We
don't have to worry about the big bad wolf blowing things out down here, so we can build without the brick. But it is funny how the differences are.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. I found this.
Oh, okay. That's what I was talking about earlier.
Income generating white home is listed for sale with 13 bedrooms.
Yeah. No, I saw when the agent put this on one of the private realtor Facebook pages.
It's true. 23 hours ago.
Yeah. So this had come out, I don't know, maybe about a week ago. The realtors have their private Facebook pages. We just kind of communicate on a bunch of stuff back and forth. And one of the guys mentioned about this coming up. 13 doors in this house. I saw that in the headlines this morning.
And it has a little bit of brick.
Yeah. There you go. It's an upper end house. Well, and I looked at the floor plan on this and pulled up the listing when it first came out before it hit the headlines.
Yep.
Wow, that's a lot of small rooms. Oh, there you go. Okay, there you go. That's a lot of small rooms in this. Look at those basement rooms. Can you zoom in on the sizes of those?
Yeah. So this is up. Okay, so this is the basement. This is the first floor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah.
So these little 8x8, 8x9, 9x10 rooms. Yeah, somebody got the big master there with the big primary with a 9x10 room. Show me the living room.
Here. Utility. No, that's utility. The living room.
Yeah, there ain't no living room.
There is no living room. Kitchen. It's true. No living room.
They're boarding houses, right? Like, unofficial boarding houses. We had one actually that we did that was similar to this years ago, with I think 8 or 9 in it. It was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, how can you do this?
Yeah,
seriously. And how do people live in it? But I met a guy who's living in kind of one of these. I mentioned in one of the earlier podcasts because I'd met him, I think the night before. There were quasi walls. They didn't even go all the way up to the ceiling. It was a drape for a door.
Yeah, we talked about it.
It's like, yikes. But there's a market for it. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Let's finish with Toronto. This is the so see the motivated buyers could spur uptick in Toronto area real estate, agents say. So there is definitely prices going down, or at least not going up, but like I showed you earlier here, going down 10%. They are going down at that point that there's an article that the federal mortgage policies, we talked about it extensively about the 30 years, and will boost Canadian home prices in 2025. Okay, so we're going to finish with this, and we see a trend, a downward trend for the prices in Toronto. And when that happens, usually, right, the other cities will follow at one point. Do you think that will happen or not?
Yeah, I don't know. And when, I guess this is some would say, the real estate agents are the boots, and I'm a real estate agent. Some would say the real estate agents are the boots on the ground with the real feel for the pulse of the market.
Yeah.
But we deal with such small amounts, and we typically don't really know what's going to be happening in the whole economic event. So I think we're probably seeing a little bit of a divergence between what the agents are seeing or possibly hoping for, trying to remain optimistic, both for their buyers and their sellers and for themselves, for their own careers.
Yep.
In a industry that's gone crazy with the number of agents out there. And then the difference between the economists, and some of the economists really trying to have a bit more of a positive outlook, on what's going on, and some of them with a more pessimistic outlook on what's going on. And we seem to see both sides of that. I'd say there's a lot more pessimism, though, from the economists than from the realtors.
Yep.
And my dollars
Yep.
would lie with where the economists typically are going, particularly the realistic ones, not the gloom or doom sayers, but just the realistic. This will have this kind of impact. This will have this kind of impact. I think we might see a little bit of a surge in the spring, but I don't think it'll be a big one. I really don't. But I don't know the Toronto market either. So, I know what I read.
Perfect.
What do you think, Dragos? What do you think is going to happen out there? What do you think is going to happen with the market in general in Canada?
Well, I have to wait to see how a few things will form to have an opinion, an educated opinion. But I can also share what I believe in. What's the points? It's true that the immigration, if we stop this the way we do it right now, it will have a major impact. And that we talked about temporary workers, students, immigrants, permanent residents. Okay, all of this. If let's say it's 50,000 less a year, which is not a lot, and they will do it. It will be 50,000 less a year, probably 100,000, maybe 150, maybe 200,000. Right now we're at 500. The conservative we're at 220. That's 220 out of 500. You understand? It's like 45% of it. So that's 280,000 less of permanent residents. We're not talking about that there were very few students, not like 400,000. Also, refugees. Only in Quebec, there's 600,000 refugees. 600,000, man. So all these numbers will have an impact. If the government decides to stop this mass immigration, this will have an impact. That's 100% in my opinion. This will have an impact. Then I believe in provinces like Alberta, which it's faster at getting to the market price. I'll give you an example. In Alberta, you can't ask someone or a judge to put a price on your rent. You understand? In Quebec, people can do that.
Say that again.
So in Alberta, there's not a judge that can set a price for your rent.
Right. The maximum increases. Yeah.
The maximum increases and all that. I don't know Ontario, but I believe it's very close to Quebec. I'm not an expert, but I believe from what I heard, it's close to Quebec. In Quebec, there's a it's called administrative bench of the housing or something like that. Okay. Right. So they only allow you to increase the inflation, which is 3%, 5%, 8%. And even that people are fighting for it. And they get in Quebec, it's really, really accepted a 2.5 increase. If you increase for 4.5, the tenant can take you to that judge, ask you to lower it to 2.5. It's another world, okay? that also will be a difference because the prices go up here faster, but they also come down faster. That's my point, because of the free market mindset. So I believe that in Alberta, we will have a stabilization and at least a little bit of drop and possibility for average drop in 2025, 2026. That's my opinion. In other parts of the country, especially because I come from Quebec and I know that, I have experience in Quebec. Quebec, it's the way it's built, you need so many permits to build, like in Vancouver also. It was, I believe there's Pierre Poilievre who was saying that in the permit for to build a house in Vancouver is $264,000. You didn't buy the lot, you didn't buy the materials, and you didn't pay the constructor yet.
Yeah.
And I don't think in Quebec is that, but probably when I built a home in 2009, I did an auto construction, and it cost $14,000 in permits, which I believe at that point was only pieces of papers, man. Like allowing you to put a house on the lot you bought and it's zoned for that matter. It's bad, but not $264,000. So that will be also a big difference, because even if the people will leave Quebec, there's not a lot of availability because there's not the same speed of construction. Okay, so I hope that makes sense in the differences between Eastern and Western, but especially Alberta, okay, which is a free market, I believe.
Yeah, you know, and make no bones about it, the costs of building, the costs of development, the cost of applications has increased here pretty significantly too. But those are crazy amounts. Like those are crazy amounts you're talking. $264,000.
Oh yeah, no, but that's and I don't. I'm not sure if it was like 364 or 464, something like that. Okay, we can find it. We can find it here. But I'll let you answer. But yes, imagine.
And you know, the long and the short of it then becomes the builders are still going to build. The builders are going to suck it up, and they're going to pay these basically taxes. You know, call it a service fee, call it whatever you want, but it's money going to the government. They will pay it because they have to, but ultimately, it is the consumer that is going to be paying that. So on one hand, we're saying build more, and then on the other hand, we're giving it with one hand, taking it away with the other, and then making it more difficult, and the whole time stating we're going to make housing more affordable. I don't know if the way to make housing more affordable is to hide the fees that you pay at the pump, if you will. You know, how much of your gas goes to the, and not that the oil and gas companies are starving any way, shape, and form, but how much of it goes to hidden taxes? You know, how much of all of these different things go to taxes while the government is stating that we're going to be increasing the affordability by lowering the price of staples. And I'm not talking about, you know, things like luxury vehicles. I'm actually kind of all in for a luxury tax like they did in Vancouver or BC, you know, on some of these fine vehicles. You pay a little bit more on a tax on it. Oh, great. You got the money to do it. It's a luxury tax. It's a sin tax. Housing's not a sin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let me show you this, Chris. That's CBC, right? It's not a blog somewhere in a basement somewhere.
I'm in my basement right now.
But we're doing a podcast, not a blog. It can be considered as a vlog. See, I said 364. I knew there's a 4 and a 6. It's 644,000, man. Okay, in this video, Paul Ever says the lot can be redeveloped into 6. He was talking about something. One reason he said, quoting a paper by the nonprofit City Hall Institute, okay, is that housing regulation costs imposed by the city add up to $644,000 for every unit developed in Vancouver.
That's insane.
Do you understand?
Now that's got to include
$644,000.
That's insane. It's
That
got to
including
include
the lot, the whatever, the construction, the home.
Yeah, and building codes and everything else, and the higher codes for some things. I'm sure some of that stuff is included in there. It would have to be. But
yeah, exactly. Like you have to do it in brick, right? Instead of whatever, stucco. So that probably adds 300 to your home. I get it. But still, maybe it's 100, 120, 150, 200. Only the permits, man.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. Okay.
So and how much do the city regulators, with their inspectors, still do the proper job going out to make sure that these things are built right too? Because that's a whole other topic that I probably shouldn't get into because it's a big old topic. But,
okay, exactly.
How much of this?
And we all know. So I learned something when I developed Amway, because I had the chance to go to the rallies and seminars, multiple times in the United States. And I was listening to successful entrepreneurs. Okay. And one thing, it's small government. Government should only take care of army, roads, schools, and, hospitals, whatever we can do together as a community. Right. Yeah. Because the government, so we have three types of expenses. One is for us, right? Let's say you buy a pen for you. You need to sign beautiful contracts for beautiful commissions. So you look at the best pen, the best value. So that's the first quality number one, let's say, because you had three types of quality, lower and lower. So the first quality, is the best. So it's for you and you pay for it. There's a second type of expense, which is gifts. So in the first, you got your money and for yourself. The second one, you'll have your money, but for someone else. So you're not going to take the same time to find them. You're just going to say, okay, I got the $25 budget. I'm going to buy a pen. I don't know, because I'm not going to use it. I'm going to make it a gift. Government is the third type, the worst type. Not their money and not for them.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a lot of people that have studies. It's close to 80% that we pay to administer the 20% of actual work.
Mm.
And in Quebec, people say all the time, it costs us 50-60% to run our health system, because it's like 50-60% of the billions and the billions are for administration, not for you going to the doctor and operating on you in a hospital with nurses. No, it's in paper, like administration.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that goes back to that productivity that you were talking about as well. The government is not paid to be productive. The government, the regulated factors of the government are not paid to be productive. So I used to work for a marketing company. I won't mention who they were, but they were quite a prominent. And we got a particular contract because this one government facility had to use their budget. They didn't use the budget. They lost it for next year. Unused budget, you can operate on less. You go less the next year. So they paid to have a commercial done. It was never going to be aired anywhere. It's completely useless. It was a decent chunk of change. Not an insane amount, but still a decent chunk of change. That was just used so they wouldn't lose the budget for next year. That is part of the problem with government.
Yeah.
Or at least the way it's set up.
Exactly the way it's set up. Yeah. Yeah. Chris, let's do the real estate market update.
All right.
And soon we'll have a sound with that.
A sound?
Yeah.
What's up?
What's up?
Or down.
Yeah.
I think that's what we should do.
Sideways.
The real estate market minute. What's up? Or down.
What's up? And we have to have some funny hair to go with it. Yeah.
I can't help you on that side of it. Mine's gone.
No, but like, me too. I need to buy some like a costume.
Yeah. I'm in.
So the first one is inflation rate. So the inflation rate dropped 1.6% in September. Okay, which is less than 2% the goal. And most of it comes from the energy sector. So gas, okay, with the drop in gas as a key factor. See here?
Yep.
Okay. So when the inflation drops, that is a signal, see, from 8.1 in June 22 to 1.6 September 2024. So it's a pretty good drop.
It's looking a little better.
It's looking a little better for sure. And we will do a podcast after the Bank of Canada October 23rd meeting. But they already say that they predict that the Bank of Canada will drop the rate by a 50% basis points.
Yeah.
So my simple question to you is, will that make a difference? Or the prices will still be the same, going downwards, and the trend we just talked about?
So my honest opinion,
Yeah.
I think it had to wait until they actually saw those firm results, but too little, too late.
Yep. That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. It's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late, and we will see it.
If we saw that early fall, maybe. If we saw it in summer, definitely. Yeah, I think people are just going to hold off.
Yeah.
I think buyers are going to wait. I think they are. I think the sellers are, nope, we don't list in fall, we list in spring, so they're going to hold off. Although we've been seeing a lot larger amounts of inventory, but most specifically, I think the buyers are just, they're going to wait at this point. If they were desperate, maybe they'll jump in. Maybe. So we might see a little bit there. I don't think we're going to see a lot. No.
Yeah. Yeah. And some other point is that the Canadian home sales. See, this is I wanted to do at the end because it's a contradictory. So we talk about the
this industry has been contradictory.
Exactly, that's my point. Okay, it's 3 days ago. It's not like 2 weeks ago. By Reuters, which is so. The Canadian home sales rise 1.9%. We the whole podcast we talked about the prices are dropping 10% in Toronto. We saw this, but the home sales rose almost 2% in September again. What? Why?
Yeah. Well, I think we really need to kind of look at these. It really depends on what they're comparing against, right? Like September against August, cool. Well, August was horrible. So is it really a rise? No, because if you compare it against the same thing last year, and I don't know where that's at, that's one thing. Still not a very accurate assumption, though. What does it look like against the long-term averages? And I think that's the part that it gets really, really confusing for the average consumer who's just looking at the one headline saying, well, they're going to base stuff on that. But it's, out of context, it's just not there. I saw some numbers. Toronto, I think it was their second lowest year for sales in 5 years. And it was the second highest inventory. No, it was the highest inventory in the past 5 years. And then the prices were up, but they were actually down substantially. When you're looking at this and you're kind of comparing
exactly, that's my point. Yeah. What is going on?
Yeah, right. It's like, and it's so incredibly hard to tell. You really need to throw those long-term averages into that mix in order to see what's actually happening.
It's true. Even in trading, we have the mobile average, we call it. And you can put it on 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, whatever. Periods, call periods, depends on, so days. And the one that you use a lot is a 200 days one. Because that's a it's amazing. Sometimes like the stock hits that 200, like the 200-day average, hits it again like 2 weeks later, hits it again 3 months later, and then pops up. I cannot believe how mathematicians can do like so beautiful tools. Okay, it's true, and it's I really am glad you brought this point, because when in my opinion, when there's a lot of contradictory things in the short period, you have to relax, breathe, and look at what happened before, history, facts, and less emotions. Yeah. See,
it's really tough. It's really tough not to bring those emotional aspects into it, particularly
sure.
with such an emotional thing.
Exactly, real estate and buying and. See, Canadian homes sales rose 1.9 in September from the previous month, like you said, and were up 6.9 on an annual basis from the CREA. And let's finish with this. The jobless rate drops to 6.9 in September. And again, what that means for rate cut. So the Canadian economy added 47,000 jobs in September, enough to lower the unemployment rate for the first time since the start of 2024. So it is a good news for people, but but a higher see that's a contradiction again. A higher productivity means that the prices continue to grow. The inflation might go back up again, so the rates have to wait before being lowered. You understand? So today is the day of the contradictions, I believe. And we will finish with this. If you want to comment on the jobless rate, which is 6.5 in September, which is the lowest rate in 2024. Do you think it has something to do with something?
So, and I haven't seen this article. I guess the question I would have is, what sector is like? Is it just full-time employment?
Yep.
Does it include part-time employment? And what sectors is it? Is it low-paying jobs, or is it high-paying jobs, or is it some sector of?
So it says right that job gains were focused in full-time work and in the private sector.
Okay, well that's good.
Offset, it's good, it's true. Offset by losses in part-time roles and public employment. That's exactly what we have to do. Okay.
Fair enough. Well, and you were mentioning about the interest rates and kind of being a balancing act, right? I think the number one reason why we've talked about this before, why the number one reason why the interest rates are going to go down, and it's inevitable, is just to avoid the sheer amount of foreclosure listings that we were talking about earlier in the podcast even. Just seeing the number of people with those mortgage renewals that are going to be coming up, because it's a record number, and where they're going to be stuck at. Having purchased low interest rates, they've had that qualifying rate, which is always higher. So you pay this, but you have to qualify as though it was this to help balance that. It's going to hurt. It's still going to hurt. It's still going to hurt. There's going to be a lot of people that are at risk there, and particularly the ones that do have that unemployment. That smaller sector of the population, but still it's there. We'll see how that all amounts out in the end.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm hopeful.
Where there's hope, there's life.
Where there is hope, there is life. Where there is life, there is hope.
I believe where there's hope, there's life. So, Chris, we did everything that we said we're going to do today. Do you have something else to add?
Just that I love you, buddy. Just that I love you.
Me too. I love you, Chris. It's true. I really enjoy doing this podcast. And this was my idea from the beginning. The way the podcast should be done, it's an authentic discussion with serious facts.
Well,
okay, and I believe we are on a good track.
I think so too, and I hope the general public out there that's watching these, I hope you guys are getting some value from it.
I hope so too. And in a few weeks, maybe a few months, we will also have guests on, and that will be even a bigger party. So, Chris, if everything is said and done, I would like to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for your support, and we will see each other next week. Have a phenomenal day.
Thanks, everybody.